You know that feeling when your phone buzzes and it's a text that could change everything? That's Genesis 12. Abraham just got the most life-changing message ever, straight from God. But would you leave everything behind to follow a promise? Welcome back to Daily Bible Devotional. I'm so glad you're here, especially if this is your first time joining us. This is your space where ancient wisdom meets modern life. We're walking together through the Bible, one chapter at a time, with the goal of learning how to faith a life. Not just know the stories, but live them. Our Old Testament series drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The New Testament, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. 8 to 10 minutes per episode, just enough to spark something in your soul. Today we're diving into Genesis 12, a chapter that literally shifts the direction of human history. No big deal, right? Let's quickly catch up so no one feels left behind. Last time we explored the story of the Tower of Babel, where humanity tried to build a name for itself without God. The result? Confusion, scattered languages, and a broken connection with heaven. But now the spotlight moves to one man, a new beginning, a promise that starts with a whisper from God and leads to blessings bigger than the sky. So what's the big deal about Genesis 12? God shows up and speaks directly to Abram, later known as Abraham, and he says something totally wild. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. 12:1. Pause for a sec. That's not just a road trip. That's leaving everything familiar behind. No GPS, no concrete details, just go and trust. Then comes the promise. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. 12:2-3. Wow, this is where God's rescue plan for humanity begins to take serious shape. The call to Abraham is really a call to all of us. Will you trust me enough to step into something bigger? Abraham's yes was more than brave. It was a surrender. This part always gets me. Abram didn't argue. He didn't ask for proof. Genesis 12:4 simply says, "So Abram went, as the Lord had told him." That's inner alchemy right there, when the inside of your soul is transformed by a simple, obedient step. And let's be honest, leaving is hard. Leaving behind comfort, stability, the known. It's like walking out of a job you've had for years because you believe God is calling you to something new, but you have zero clue what the paycheck looks like. Faith, real faith, often looks like risk. Let's break down some moments in this chapter that really hit deep. One of my favorite parts comes when Abram reaches Canaan. God says again, "To your offspring I will give this land." 12:7. But guess what? Abram didn't even have a kid yet. Imagine being promised a house for your grandkids when you're not even married. That's the wild level of vision God operates on. And how does Abram respond? He builds an altar. Right there. No temple, no priest, just him and God. Sometimes worship is less about music and more about marking moments, saying, "God, I see what you're doing, and I'm building a memory around it." But then, the twist. Right after this mountaintop moment, there's a famine. Abram has to leave the promised land and head to Egypt just to survive. And here's where things get messy. Out of fear, Abram lies. He tells Pharaoh that Sarai is his sister, not his wife, to avoid trouble. Sound familiar? One minute, we're walking in spiritual confidence. The next, we're panicking and making bad choices to protect ourselves. This is a key part of spiritual growth. Learning that faith doesn't mean perfection. Even heroes of the faith messed up. A lot, but they kept returning to God. So what does this all mean for us today? Honestly, a lot. Because in a world that tells us to secure the bag, stay in our comfort zones, and only move when things are safe, Genesis 12 invites us to something braver. It asks, what would it look like for you to say yes to God without needing all the answers? Maybe it's starting that project you've been sitting on. Maybe it's forgiving someone and rebuilding a relationship. Maybe it's moving somewhere new or just moving your heart toward healing. Abram's story reminds us, spiritual awakening begins with trust, not when we arrive, but the moment we say, okay, I'm in. Let's zoom in on that powerful phrase again. I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. 12:2. This isn't just about receiving favor from God. It's about becoming a conduit of grace for others. If God blesses you with peace, pass it on. If He blesses you with wisdom, speak it over someone. If you're walking in healing, help someone else get there. Blessed to be a blessing. That's the heartbeat of God. All right, let's get real for a moment. Have you ever had that quiet ache in your soul that you can't quite explain? Like you're living your life, but deep down, something feels unfinished. You wake up, go through your routine, check all the boxes, but there's this low hum in your spirit saying, there's more. Maybe it hits you when you're scrolling through photos of someone who packed up and started over. Or when you hear someone talk about purpose and you feel both inspired and frustrated because you want that too, but you don't know how to get there. That feeling, that ache, that nudge in your gut that something sacred is calling your name, that might just be your Genesis 12 moment. It doesn't always sound like a loud voice from heaven. Sometimes it's the silence that won't leave you alone. The way your heart beats faster when you think about what you'd do if fear wasn't in the way. And here's the thing. God rarely gives us the full picture. He just gives us a promise, a word, a whisper. Enough light for the next step, not the whole map. Like Abram, you don't need all the answers. You just need the courage to say yes. Because spiritual awakening doesn't begin when everything makes sense. It begins when you trust the one who's calling you, even when the path is foggy. It starts not with certainty, but with surrender. Not with a destination, but with direction. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with this. Abram didn't know where he was going. There were no street signs, no Google Maps, no step-by-step life plan. All he had was the voice of God. But he trusted that voice more than he trusted his own understanding. And that was enough. What if you stopped waiting for all the lights to turn green and started moving with the light you already have? What if you let go of the need to know how it'll work and just followed who is calling? Because sometimes faith isn't about taking the leap, it's about taking the next step. Maybe today, that next step is a prayer, a conversation, a decision, or maybe it's just choosing to believe that if God is calling you, He will walk with you. Abram's story reminds us, it's not about how much you know, it's about who you trust. And that trust, that quiet, bold, trembling yes, is often more than enough. Maybe it can be enough for you too. Next time? Oh, it's getting interesting. Abram's journey continues, and let's just say there's family drama, wealth, altars, and some major decisions ahead. But who really chooses the better path? Abram or his nephew Lot? And what happens when the land isn't enough for both? Yeah, you'll want to stick around. Thank you for spending these minutes with me today. Whether you're listening during your morning drive or winding down after a long day, I hope this daily devotional sparks something deep in your spirit. Remember, new Old Testament episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And don't forget, our New Testament series airs every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. Let's keep walking one faithful step at a time. Catch you in the next one.